Peace, family, Vie Darling, the Cosmic Queen. I'm your intergalactic interpreter, and I'm just gonna do a little channeling for y'all, because I got shit to say. Well, I just downloaded some stuff. I've been really in the ethers, downloading a lot this full moon. I've been in the ethers a lot actually since before Thanksgiving, but yeah, I crashed out a little bit around Thanksgiving, not because of Thanksgiving, although that is going to come up in this channeled message. But I crashed out because, it was actually your computer crashing because I was, I guess, downloading or uploading new memories from my subconscious shit that I had repressed, and it was so intense and so aggressive, and I do think that it shifted my timeline so much that I literally slept for 25 hours. I went to the bathroom twice. I checked my phone for a maximum 5 minutes because I had such a bad migraine. And the logical explanation here would be, because I forgot to take my meds when I went to sleep, which is usually when I take them. I take an antidepressant, and I take 𝗪𝗃𝗪 for ADHD, but their 𝗪𝗃𝗪 is the one that will have me feeling super weird if I forget to take it before I go to sleep. So when I wake up, I feel really weird, and then it takes me a really long time to get into the day if I forget to take it before I go to sleep. And so I was super hyper last night when I came home from school, which is not usually the case. I'm usually exhausted when I get home from school, because I've been because my meds have already worn off by then. But yeah, the logical explanation is I forgot to take my meds, and that's why I feel I have a headache, my body hurts. But actually, that's not it, because I forgot to take my meds before I went to sleep 2 times today, and 2 times this week. And it did not make me feel the way that I felt. I had a terrible migraine. It hurt to move my head. I haven't felt like that. Not even when I was in middle school and I used to get migraines. I don't think that that's what it felt like, but I haven't felt like that since I used to get hangovers. I don't experience hangovers really anymore because I'm sober, but I have noticed that even when I go out and I don't drink, which obviously I don't drink, when I do go out and participate in nightlife, I still do feel kind of hungover the next day. Not solely, I think, because of dancing or whatever, but I think it's the energy, and spaces carry energy too. This is something that I've spoken about a lot, if not here in the Aetherium. I think I've spoken about it here in the Aetherium. I can't imagine that I haven't, but so yeah, I know that it was because of whatever shift was going on, timeline-wise, what have you. I know that that's really what it was, and because of the resurfacing of these memories, which is a phenomenon that is actually well known in trauma-informed community, that this is a thing that happens. So it's no surprise to me. But yeah, I crashed out at Thanksgiving. Personally, and yeah, I guess this is how I will introduce the topic of this channeled message. Personally, I really don't care about holidays anymore. I think that when I was a lot less healed, it used to be super triggering for me because of my family stuff. Less so than the political aspects about it. I think that the political aspects were really secondary to my distaste for a holiday like Thanksgiving, I really didn't care. Like, before I became estranged from my family, I didn't care about the fact that Christmas is Christian or whatever, because I grew up Christian. So, like, it never made sense to me why people who weren't Christian celebrated it, because, like, the way that we celebrated it was by going to church Christmas Eve and spending that whole time there. I also just feel like if you're actually serious about your religion, like, why are you celebrating other, like, holidays from other religions? That never really made sense to me. But I did not stop celebrating because of, and also, like, yeah, I think that's just, like, when you're a kid, like, people try to make it super magical for you. But when you're an adult, you have to make shit magical for yourself. And also, like, I think it's when one becomes disillusioned, that can be very triggering, especially, like, if the disillusion is, the experience of disillusion is associated with serious, thoroughgoing trauma. That's just definitely not the kind of experience that anybody really wants to have, I don't think. So that's really what I would say about that. But I stopped celebrating because usually holidays when I moved to New York, that would be usually when I would see my extended family again. And they treated me horribly. They were just fucking terrible towards me and extremely ableist, would isolate and alienate me. And the only way that I could deal with them or, like, even pretend to be anything like them was by using substances. The first time that I, like, got along with, like, some of my first cousins was because I had started, like, partaking in cannabis, let's say. And then I was, like, seen as, like, not even, like, seen as, like, cool, or, like, seen as a fucking human. You know what I mean? And so, like, that being the only time that I could convince myself that I was having fun, like, oh yeah, like, now I've become socialized and I'm a part of, and it's like, that's not how this works. And I know that a lot of people who are neurodivergent and high fucking masking are convinced that, like, when you start masking, that's just you maturing, but that's not what that is. And the moment that you stop masking and that you start actually engaging with your autism or ADHD or SPD or GAD, the moment that you start engaging with, even if you have borderline, you know what I mean? The moment that you actually start treating that shit, you will see that you did not just grow and mature and become socialized. You began traumatizing yourself, cutting yourself off, truncating yourself so that you could fit in with people who are less than you. Oh, you're too much for you? Go find less. Go find less. That's what you want, right? Good luck. I love that for you. You feel me? 𝗂𝗪𝗪𝘁. So that is, like, one thing that I really, like, want, you know, the, what is it, outlier community to understand is that, like, pretending to be someone that you're not is not, that's not growing and maturing. Learning to cultivate a life where you can safely be the best version of yourself, that is growing and maturing. Okay, so for me, holidays were super triggering. Particularly one of my, like, least favorite aunts would be, like, super bitchy, and she would, like, do this thing where, like, if they would ask us, like, what we requested for dinner on holidays, and, like, if I was like, I'm not picky, I just like there to be a vegan option, because I have digestive issues, because I have an autoimmune disorder, because of the CPTSD that I have, and also because I'm neurodivergent, but because of the abuse I experienced all throughout my life, like, I have IBS. And I can't eat most things. At that time, I was, like, trying to figure out, like, what I was able to eat. And I was just vegan because it was the easiest thing for me to do to address, like, my dietary issues. And when you spend, like, when you have to go to children's hospital multiple times in your childhood because your gut is so fucked up and, like, you're in pain most of the time, like, yeah, you're willing to do whatever it takes so that you don't have to experience that. Thankfully, I don't have to be vegan anymore because I love eating meat, and I've figured out, like, some diets that are better for me and some fixes that, like, really fit me better. But I still shouldn't have had to even have, like, face this issue. You know what I mean? Like, people who actually love and care about you are going to want to show up for you in that way if they actually love and care about you. But it just goes to show that they did not love, nor did they care about me. And that is not fine, and it's not okay, but it is what it is. And I accept that today. And on the solid ground of the truth, I'm able to create a life that is actually where I do actually experience unconditional love, and I do actually experience, like, people caring about me. You know what I mean? And so all that to say, yeah, like, my aunt would, like, purposefully not have anything that I could eat so that I would have to eat whatever the fuck was there, because I'm not going to be able to eat otherwise. And I told this to somebody in recovery, and they were just like, dude, and I hadn't realized it before, I hadn't thought about it this way before, but the person that I told about this was like, dude, they literally tried to poison you. And that's what it is. And I think that people will, like, people who are still indoctrinated into the culture of abuse will be like, oh, like, that's too much. No, if you only had things with peanuts and you knew that somebody was coming who's allergic to peanuts, first of all, you shouldn't have any fucking peanuts there. But to have everything have peanuts in it, you are trying to poison that person. Whether or not they're going to go into anaphylactic shock, or whether they're going to be physically impaired and mentally impaired for days after, because they are in so much pain, those, like, that does end up leading to organ failure. That leads to larger, worse diseases down the line. And it does shorten your lifespan. And I really feel like people who are still indoctrinated into this culture of abuse just have no self-respect, or they can't think far out enough to realize, like, the long-reaching consequences of such insidious, subversive forms of psychological and also physical warfare on people. Because that's what that is. Anyway, I think I understood that kind of, like, subconsciously, because that's really when I stopped going to holidays. And they'd be like, oh, aren't you coming to, like, Christmas? Aren't you coming to Thanksgiving? No, bitch, I'm not fucking coming. What the fuck am I gonna do? Sit there and watch you eat? Like, that's crazy. That's actually pretty fucking evil, if you ask me. I would never think to do something like that to someone, not even someone I don't like. Which is, it's a miracle that I turned out the way that I am, because if I was surrounded by things like that and grew up in a setting where I was mainly interacting with these kinds of personalities, like, it truly is a miracle when any one of us breaks away from a narcissistically abusive, toxic, cult-like family dynamic that is enmeshed. It truly, truly is a miracle. And for everybody who has done it, I want to say that I am fucking in awe of you. I am constantly inspired by the amount of self-love that you are able to embody, and you're my fucking hero. Let me just put it that way. If nobody has told you that today or ever, I'm going to be the one to fucking tell you that, and I'm going to be the one to hype you up, because you are magnificent, and it's not easy. But so yeah, I stopped going around at that point, but even my mom was like, there was a moment where, like, I was getting something on my plate, and they're like, oh, well, Miss So-and-so, I thought that you, like, couldn't eat meat or whatever. And my mom and I both said at the same time, well, what else am I supposed to eat? And it's like, otherwise, you know, her role in it, like, that doesn't absolve her of absolutely anything, because that's one of the only times that she ever stood up for me. But, like, her role in it, too, is, like, for me, for myself personally, if my kid was ever treated like that, we're not coming around, because if we come around, I'm putting hands on you. I'm putting belt to ass. Like, you will get touched. You're not finna talk to my child that way. You're not finna put my child in a situation where they feel unwanted, unloved, unwelcome, and unworthy. You may have thought it was, but it'll be the end of your days real quick. So that's to say about that. But yeah, so I stopped going around. But obviously, like, this caused me a lot of distress, especially seeing people online who would, like, be posting their plates from Thanksgiving. And it's just like, you know, even having a Friendsgiving, that's really not the kind of person that I am. Like, I value family. Like, that's how I was raised, is to value family over everything. But I genuinely feel like the way that social dynamics are, especially, like, just globally and, like, versus, like, my ethnic African ass culture, is, like, the things that family does for you, the way that you can rely upon and lean on your family, is very different than people who are your friends. And I find that people who are just your friends, just the degree of friendship these days, want to consider themselves like, oh, that's my chosen family. And you call every acquaintance, mere acquaintance, a friend. And now someone who only fits the friend role is your chosen family. And it's just codependent, it's insane, it's super unhealthy, it's super toxic, and it undergirds a lot of failure in interpersonal dynamics. That's what I've noticed. In any case, so yeah, it would cause me to crash out, like, in a very different sense of what happened, like, last week. It would cause me to crash out, and like, I would become so depressed, and I would end up, like, getting blackout wasted usually. And there are times that I can, like, remember where I, like, really got myself into trouble and put myself in, like, really humiliating situations, you know, and embarrassed the fuck out of myself because I was sad about, like, my life and my family, and I was triggered, and I did not have the tools. I didn't have any framework for how to address the absolute anguish and utter demoralization that I would experience around the holidays. And so I would basically kill myself with substances, or unalive myself. Sorry, censor police. In any case, with substances, and, like, cause serious damage. You know what I mean? And thankfully I don't have to live like that anymore. But what that says to me is, like, you know, that is why I had, more than anything, that's why I took issue with holidays, like the Bermuda Triangle, as some people call it, of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, because this is actually one of the time period with the highest rates of people unaliving themselves. I know that's not the politically correct, trauma-informed way to say that anymore, but I mean, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm shadow banned constantly anyway, so dying by suicide. We don't say someone unalived themselves. We don't say that they took their own life. You say died by suicide. That's the appropriate thing to say. And yeah, this is the time of the year where the rates for that are the highest, and no wonder when we live in a psychopathic system, and most families are microcosms of narcissistic abuse and codependency, like, that we witness that, and it's just kind of glossed over with this shiny, bright, sparkly veneer, and that's pretty fucked up. But I actually, like, that is for me the real reason why. And I would definitely say to, like, people, like, I'm not going to celebrate for political reasons back then, when I was not willing to be honest with myself and others about, like, the reason why I would get so triggered around the holidays. But like I said, I mean, I don't experience that anymore. Because I don't put myself in harm's way anymore. Suffice it to say, I just don't do that anymore. And if people want to celebrate, I do think that it is important to spend time in community with one another. I don't know if I necessarily feel like it needs to be festive. I don't really know, but for me, the way that I healed is like being in community with other Indigenous people and people of Indigenous descent all throughout that weekend. And from doing that for the past like 5 years, I feel so healed from any kind of enmity and animosity I feel towards like that specific holiday, Thanksgiving. And I do that for Christmas as well, but I don't really have a problem with Christmas. I just think it's so bizarre, like, that people who aren't Christian, like, celebrate a Christian holiday. But that's because, like, I mean, there's so many political reasons I'm not going to get into about that. And why they do that and why that's a valid thing to do, because American Christianity is not actually Christianity, and it's really more of a national holiday than anything else. But all that said, yeah, I actually realized that, like, Christmas especially is such a gay holiday. It's, like, so campy, and it's so, like, kitschy, and, like, it's so queer, because this person was, like, asking these two gay guys were talking on, like, online, and they were like, oh, like, do you love Christmas? Is it, like, I hear it's, like, no, do you love Halloween? I hear that it's, like, gay Christmas. Which, but the guy in response was like, I don't know. I'd argue that Christmas is also pretty gay. And I was like, you know what? That's so fucking true. And my gay ass opened up real quick to the possibilities here. And now I love the way that Americans celebrate holidays, because it is so flamboyant. It's so flamboyant, and I don't think that they realize it at all. And so I actually get a real kick out of it, because I'm also extremely festive and flamboyant. And besides, as a pagan, you might say, or as a heathen, I celebrate, there are plenty of like pagan holidays, holy days, that I do celebrate around Christmas, like Saturnalia, that I can still honor. I can honor the energy and the reason why there are festivities at this time, which is a lot more than a lot of these people who are celebrating holidays can say. So, the crash out, the holiday. I forgot what the channeled message was. I think that needed to be said, though, because especially, like, you know, this collective, we are people who are largely neurodivergent in mundane terms. We are people who have experienced a lot of bullying and narcissistic abuse. We are people who, many of us, are queer and estranged from our families. So I hope that, like, I think this really did need to be said, because whatever kind of acting out behavior you might have, it doesn't have to be my acting out behavior, which it's like, you know, when you're young and you're hot and like queer art school kid, you know, being like, fuck this, I'm gonna go down to the bar, or I'm gonna go to the, and you go to fucking like the hipster bar, or you go to like a rave or something like that and do like a ton of party favors. That is not really seen usually, especially for me, because I was very, very high masking. It's not seen as being like as destructive as it is, but it is. And like, you know, you might be somebody who like binge eats a bunch of sweets at this time. You might be somebody who a lot of millennials are orthorexic, so you might be someone who overdoes it at the gym at this time, or like, you know, trigger warning, chooses to like have an unhealthy, controlling relationship with their food. Whatever it is, you don't have to do that. Like, there are support groups and recovery programs for everything imaginable. Even like there's an Emotions Anonymous. I've never been to it, but I know it exists. You know, there are hotlines that you can call. I just want y'all to realize, like, you are never alone in this. As much as people may have made you feel like you are, like, in your former life, like, that gets to be your former life. That doesn't have to be your narrative now. At any given moment in time, like, we get to shift the narrative, because we are the ones, as sovereign adults, we're the ones who get to write our story. So, you know, I'm going to share a story that somebody shared with me. I'm not going to name any names, because I also didn't ask for permission, but if you watch this, I hope it's okay, but I'm also going to give a trigger warning, because it does involve, you know, death by, like, suicide, and it does involve, like, you know, SRA and, like, family toxicity and that kind of stuff. So take care of yourself if that's not something that you can sit with. But my friend told me a story. I wouldn't even say, like, told me a story. I feel like that's actually, like, a really inappropriate way to qualify it. But my friend told me the other day about a really messed up situation in which their friend, who they're estranged from their family, they grew up in a Mormon cult-like family, and they experienced SRA, and their friend had a similar upbringing, and so they were supposed to spend the holiday together, but there was an ice storm coming, and they called their friend and told them, hey, I don't think it's a good idea for you to come. And so the friend didn't come, but the friend made the decision to go be with their abusive family for the holiday, and shortly thereafter ended up allegedly unaliving themselves. And so now my friend is, like, really experiencing a lot of grief. I think this was a few years ago, but all that to say, you know, you don't have to do anything that's going to hurt you. You don't have to go back to the people who hurt you. You don't have to go back to the things that hurt you. You are perfectly within your rights and super, super encouraged to reach out for help. And if you feel like you want to harm yourself, I encourage you, and I'm going to put in the description box, I encourage you to call a hotline. There are so many hotlines, and there are ones that are specifically for queer and trans people as well. I had never thought to do something like that. You can even text them. Like, I'd never thought to do something like that until a friend told me about that she used to do that a lot, especially before she got sober. And you don't know what you don't know. So before you think about doing something that's going to cause you harm, maybe reach out to someone that you know loves and cares about you. Because they, like, one, someone needs to know what you're thinking, and two, they might have a solution for you. And I didn't end up using that resource immediately, but I was, like, in a really fucked up place last summer and I did end up using it, and it did actually help a lot. So, you know, as we continue into this holiday season, especially as, you know, we're in an economic crisis, a lot of people, that is another thing that can be really triggering for people. And actually that's a big part of the trauma that I had around Christmas to begin with, because I think it was like a super triggering time for my primary caregiver. But all the same, like, you don't have to be alone. And back in like 2020, my cousin and I and some of our friends through my care network we did a Christmas meal giveaway, and we gave away like care packages and Christmas meals that a friend of mine who's a chef made. We collected donations to do that in Crown Heights out of one of my friends' like community art spaces, and that was honestly the best Christmas of my entire life, and it was super healing. So if you're struggling, that's another thing that you can do. Go be of service. Go be of service. I started my care network in 2020 during lockdown because I was so spun out on how terrified I was and how brokenhearted I felt about how the amount of suffering that was going on in the world. And I just was like, I don't know what to do. I would literally sit on the floor with my head in my hands because I was just feeling so powerless and unsure about what to do and how to move forward. How do you just keep going to your filmmaking classes and your photography classes and talk about fucking, I don't know, Larry Clark and Western art history when people are dying all over the planet in pain? You know what I mean? How do you do that? I didn't go to class for 2 weeks. That's actually when I ended up getting sober, but my intuition came to me, the voice of my higher power, which in this moment I'm going to choose to call God, because my sister says intuition is the voice of God. My intuition came to me and was like, you do know what to do. You do what you always did. And what I always did, what I grew up doing, every first Sunday of the month in the church that I grew up in, the children would make sandwiches during Sunday school, and then a team of adults, and then some, like when we became teenagers, some of us would go as well. And my mom did this like almost every first Sunday, would go to Washington, D.C. to feed the homeless. And that was a really big part of the culture of my church, even though it was super racist. There's still good things that I learned from growing up in that community, and those are the things that I carry with me and that I amplify, and I just choose not to do the bad things. I choose not to be a person who hurts people in that way, but to do the things that nourished me and helped me grow. And one of those things was being of service. I had over 1,000 student service learning hours when I graduated from high school, so I got a special cord for that, which nobody even knew that they had that cord, because that was how I was raised. That's what I knew how to do. How I knew how to plan events and produce events, to the point that I've produced multiple events at Ace Hotel New York with brands like Nike, etc. Like, how I learned how to do that was from watching my mom plan fundraisers and things like that. You know what I mean? So when shit that hit the fan and the rubber hit the road, I did end up knowing what to do, and that was to be of service. And so I rallied my friends, and I was like, hey, who knows how to make masks? My friend Gigi knew how to make masks. Who has a car? You know what I mean? Like, send in your fucking donations. Who has space? And I used the space of my previous employer. I used to work at Playground Coffee Shop, and I had quit by that time, but Zanat offered me that space to run the care network out of. What is one of my gifts as a healer? Making herbal medicine. And so we got together, I made my herbal medicine, we made care packages, and my friend 𝗪𝗫, who's like, I don't know, she's like a mom to like teenagers. She like, oh wait, no, it wasn't 𝗪𝗫, because I remember one of her kids, their surgery for their transition got postponed, which was happening to a lot of people. And they were immunocompromised, so they were not allowed to like leave the house. But these are the demoralizing things people were experiencing. And we were a bunch of like young, able-bodied people. I think I was like I was 24 at the time, maybe 25, like, and very fit at the time too. Like, we had the ability to go and do this. So we masked up, we got to fucking work, and we drove around the city delivering care packages to first responders, to like urgent cares. Like, we helped to start the free food fridge network in New York City, which swept the nation. You know what I mean? Like, we did a fucking lot. And for me, we did jail support when the uprising started. We gave safety supplies to and health kits to people at protests. And for me, at least, and I know for my friends as well, like, for friends who were immunocompromised themselves and could not be out on the ground, and also for myself as a Black femme, I did not feel safe going to protests and marches. So those of us who didn't feel safe or had reasons why we couldn't be outside would come over to my house, and I would cook and they would make sandwiches. We'd pack that food and we would drive from the fucking Bronx through Queens, through Brooklyn, all over the city. And you know what? I didn't have time to sit around feeling sorry for myself. I didn't have time to be scared. And when I get choked up about it, because it's like, I really just want people to understand the value of being of service. That is where I met the woman who got me sober. And that is what essentially saved my life, because I would probably be dead if I had not gotten sober. I know I would have been dead. I would have been trafficked. Like, those are the things, that was what was available for me. And I knew her already, but I met the person who got me sober, who took me to my first meeting while we were doing service. Like, the gratitude and joy that people expressed when they received our care packages in the mail. And it especially is like for kids who were like at college and had to go home to like abusive families. Like, doing something that seems so small, that took such little effort on my part, to let somebody like that know that someone cares about you and this is not going to be forever. That saved my life, and I think it really saved a lot of our lives in that time. Because you don't have time to sit around being scared. And when you're doing things like that, you know there's at least one person doing it. And when I forced all of my friends to help me, then it was like, and then like anybody who would come in, like our regular customers at Playground ended up like doing it, people donating, like this is hundreds of people. I mean, we were getting hundreds of donations a day. Like, we were making fucking moves, like thousands and thousands of dollars in donations. And like the fundraisers that we had like over 100 people came. You know what I mean? Like, we did the fucking work, and that helps so many people to know that, like, you know something, someone is doing something about it. The world isn't full of terrible people, and we might just make it through this. I personally, like, I was watching a movie about COVID, like a narrative film, and you know, I felt so triggered in my body that I couldn't even finish watching it. And I want people to remember how it felt at that time. So it's no small feat. And I think that, like, my point here is, you know, if you feel like the world is crashing in on you right now, I guarantee you, I actually might put this in my next newsletter on the channel, not the mysteries, but I'm gonna do it. I promise you guys, I'm actually gonna do this time. I'm going to compile a list for, at least in New York City, volunteer opportunities and mutual aid opportunities for the month of December and January, and particularly Christmas and New Year's. I will also put resources for people who have substance issues and like mental illness and stuff like that. The job that I do for money is outreach coordination for the food pantry at my university. So I'm already working on things like this anyway. And yeah, like, I do want to say, if ever anybody, like, I don't think I've ever said this on here, if any of you ever feel like you need help and you need resources. I mean, I also did resource coordination for an organization at the University of Oregon. And if you ever need resources, like, I am very good at doing that, and I'm happy to do it. I turn in my thesis proposal next week, and then I'm on break. So I have the space and time, but yeah, if you ever need that kind of support, I can help with that, or I can direct you to someone who can. This is not the channeled message that I meant to share, but like, that I guess this is what needed to come out. And yeah, like, fucking reach out to someone in your community before you take that first drink, you know, before you, you know, like, smoke that cigarette if that's a problem for you, before you eat something that, you know, like, you might have diabetes, or like, what is it when you might be pre-diabetic, before you eat that cupcake, like, before you choose to harm yourself, reach out to a friend, reach out to a hotline, you know, find maybe an in-person support group that you can go to, and find out how you can do service, because I guarantee you, like, I have not ever once seen it fail that doing service will not help you shift your vibration and your energy, because when you're doing, at least for me, doing service, like, puts me in a state of gratitude. And I cannot feel, and actually I believe that this is like neuroscience, you cannot feel that kind of fear that causes demoralization and depression when you are at the same time as you experiencing gratitude on a biomolecular, biochemical level. So, you know, write a gratitude list. That's another thing that you can do. And yeah, I don't know, for myself, I really don't have, this is the channel message that I had, Overstanding. I had an understanding of the holidays before, and I was, you know, oh God, like, this is a genocide holiday, which it is. And yeah, like, I prefer to spend that day in community with my Indigenous recovery community, in a spiritual way. That's how I prefer to spend the day. And usually I also just like to fucking take rest, because it's like right around finals for academics, like, it's a lot. So I do that, and that is what healed me to be in a place of overstanding, where it's also like, yeah, like, it's a Christian holiday, like, that's an understanding. And innerstanding is the alchemical process of synthesizing information with what I would say, like, metaphysics, and feeling it in your body. And that for me was getting to know, like, I don't hate this time or these specific days because of those reasons. It's because of my unresolved family trauma. And these memories that I had not yet recovered of being diagnosed as autistic as a child, my mom not telling anyone that, and being bullied by my cousins who were supposed to be my best friends, who I would be told, you don't need friends, you have cousins. But when you're raised to think that, and they don't like you because you're neurodivergent and you're different and you're quiet and you want to read books and not watch Disney Channel, like, just imagine what that's going to do to you. You know what I mean? But when I came to understand that, same thing for, like, I hated July 4th because, like, fuck this colonizer holiday. But an understanding is, like, actually, July 4th is scary. People get super, super wasted and act really crazy. Like, Halloween and July 4th are scary-ass days, at least in New York City for me. And that triggers me, so I don't like those days. That's my understanding. And also, people need something to celebrate, because the reality is, deep down inside, they know that the system we live in is fucking terrible. And these are some of the only things that bring them joy in their lives, having a holiday to look forward to, which is, yes, a weapon of the colonizer. Like, 𝗂𝗪𝗁 wrote about this in a book that I can't remember the name of, but beautiful fucking book and beautiful writing, incredible writing. She grew up in Jamaica, and she writes about that from the perspective of, like, colonizer holidays. And you know, as the people who are colonized, like, and understanding what I developed from Overstanding is like, am I going to blame the colonized people who have been systemically and strategically disempowered and psychologically tortured for generations and generations, so much so that it's metastasized into their bodies? And now people have, oh yeah, I have cancer in my family. Oh yeah, I have high blood pressure and a high cortisol in my family. And it's like, no, that's actually the physical representation of the trauma of colonization and genocide. Am I going to blame those people? I could, but I'm the one who's going to go around being miserable. You know what I mean? So an overstanding of like this time period for me is like, it's really not like a religious holiday for people who are religious. Yeah, it is, but like it's really like part and parcel of American culture, and it's a holiday. Like, most Christians in this country are not even Christian. They're not practicing Christian. The only time they go to church is Easter. And as a church kid, we used to get so mad about that because you'd never have seats and we'd have to sit in the hallway. But yeah, like, most people aren't even really Christian. And if that's something that upsets you, think about the fact that, like, they didn't even choose that. Most people are not choosing to be the thing that they're forced to be. And it's a blessing and a curse for us to be able to be conscious enough to make that decision. We are the free ones. And yes, it fucking sucks. Yes, we have to be outsiders. Like, but at the end of the day, fuck being part of society. I like being fucking, like, I like being alternative. I feel like such a bad bitch. Like, part of not wanting, like, being so sad about, like, not being able to wear all black is because I look fucking good in all black, bro. Like, I fucking love being alternative. And it sucks when people judge you before they even know you and assume who you are before they even get to, like, know what's inside. But that's their problem. They're the one who have to deal with that karma. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're free. We get to choose to be the kind of person we want to be in this life. We get to choose if how we're gonna engage with a holiday. And for me, I like the festivity. I like the opulence. I like the one, it also feels really magical. Like, the veil is very thin. We're on the dark side of the moon, so it's like an extremely potent magical time. And I also I like the high holy days. I used to make huge feasts for my ancestors, like, and I like that shit. You feel me? Like, I like doing that. But I got to choose. So maybe consider that the reason why you might be really struggling also is because you haven't gotten to a place of overstanding. And when you recognize that you get to choose, you will be in that place of overstanding. You get to choose. You don't have to give a shit. And no, you don't just decide overnight, I just decided I'm not going to give a shit. Deadass, when I hit 30, like, I just stopped giving as much of a shit. But also, I use subliminals every single day, pretty much, for the past, since 2022. I use 2021, I use subliminals every single day to reprogram my subconscious mind. So I really don't care as much about stuff that I used to. And also, shameless plug, my work that I did at my residency in London, the writing that I did there is now published on the Montez website, so you can go check that out. That's going to be in the newsletter as well. But yeah, I wrote about that because I started to realize over the summer, like, so much of my angst about society was really because I felt I couldn't be angry at the people who were actually hurting me. It's easier to be angry at systemic cis-heteropatriarchal violence than to face that kind of violence in my own personal life and hold those people accountable. But now that I've done that, I'm way less fucking angry about that shit. And it's still fucked up. I still care about it, obviously. Like, my art is about it, my writing is about it. My entire fucking academic career and theory, like, that I am developing, like, is about that and about colonialism. And that as a facet of it. But it doesn't rule my life today. It doesn't rule my emotions today. Yeah, I still get affected when Diddy gets 4 years after all of the horrible things that he's done. Or when, like, you know, you see so many abusers in the media. It still hurts me, but it doesn't make me harm myself. And that's what getting to a place of overstanding gets you. I know this is a really, like, heavy channeled message. I mean, most of them are anyway. Well, this is actually, like, inordinately deep and heavy and emotional. More so than we've had in the previous year. But yeah, I feel like, you know, higher power wanted me to communicate that. And because I have shit to do and I need to go, and this is I thought this was going to be like some 5-minute type shit, and now it's been like almost an hour. Yeah, I just want to say, like, I would love to, like, tap into whatever energy is, like, sending this message, but I do get that, like, it's just, like, it's spirit. And I love 𝗂𝗍𝗄, y'all know that. She's from Maryland, I'm from Maryland, you know, that's my Scorpio dominant sis. But, yeah, she talks a lot about the Holy Spirit these days, and as an occultist who grew up Christian, and my grandfather was the head of the World Baptist Alliance, my dad is a deacon, so, you know, been through seminary since basically fucking childhood was seminary. But as, like, doing the theological work in higher education institutions, and as a practicing witch and occultist, the Holy Spirit is not some sort of, like, Christian monopoly. The Holy Spirit is the holistic spirit. It is all of spirit. It is the one. It is the all. So being like, and she was like, yeah, I channel from the Holy Spirit. Some people channel from their spirit guides or extraterrestrials. And it's like, if you're channeling from the Holy Spirit, you are actually channeling from everybody's spirit guides. It's the all. So I just want to say that because, like, one thing that's been happening since 2020 is a lot of people have started spiritually awakening. There's a lot of propaganda out there that is incredibly Euro-colonially violent. There's a lot of white nationalist propaganda. There's a lot of white nationalists and friggin' Nazis in the spiritual community, which I guarantee you, like, in the occult community, yes, but that was not the case in the spiritual community prior to, like, 2018. Prior to, like, witch talk and this stuff becoming, like, popular, like, part of pop culture, this was not a thing. But now there's a lot of, like, white nationalist propaganda, Nazi propaganda, like, trad wife type shit, like, really divisive, harmful, like, I'm a born again Christian type shit. You're not a Christian. Like, whatever you are following, whatever you are saying, that is not doctrine, nor is it what Yeshua taught. Like, if you're gonna go out and claim to be a Christian, like, just because you read the Bible, like, you actually need to study the doctrine. And if you don't know, like, the history of Christianity, like, you are causing harm to yourself, to others, and this kind of, like, conservatism is literally killing people, because these are the kind of people who launched a coup on January 6th. So this is not innocuous. This is not a joke. This is something that threatens us all. Because these are the kind of people who are ready and prepared to wage war on the rest of us. Make no mistake. I spent a lot of my life in the South, and I know what goes on down there. So be sure that it's not something to just write off as if it's not important. It really is. So if you're going to go around claiming that you're a Christian, you better fucking do it right and actually learn the doctrine and the, like, theological, liturgical meaning behind a lot of things. And you better learn the history of Christianity and of the person that you claim is your Lord and Savior. You don't get to just decide that you like something and now that's your thing. You don't get to wear identities and systems as a costume for your identity crisis, cause tremendous amounts of harm, and then when you are done with it, just discard it and act like, oh, no big deal. It is a big deal. And I see this happen a lot, and I've even seen friends of mine. This is that second baby cat shit. This really is. And I've talked about this person before. I'm pretty sure she has borderline personality disorder, but she got sucked into that, like, 𝗫𝗄𝗃, trad wife, like, homophobic, transphobic, like, ultra conservative shit. Mind you, she's half black and half Jewish, and she grew up in Queens. She has a black flag tattoo. Remember what I said. If you're not possessing yourself, you gotta wonder what's possessing you. When you're not self-possessed, when you don't have integrity, you don't know who you are, well, what's controlling you then? I had to stop going around her. She was being, like, the shit that she was on, she was stalking this guy that she met online. She was being super anti-black and anti-Semitic, and I think she thought it was okay because she is those things, but I don't play that shit. You're not about to say none of that shit in front of me. And also she said just really destructive, like, some of the most foul stuff that anyone has ever said to me, she said to me. And I was just like, okay, well, we're never speaking again. And we will never speak again, because when I say I'm done with a person, you don't exist in my world. That's the type of stuff that these people are on. And she's definitely, the last time I saw her, she was definitely in, like, early stages of psychosis, I believe. Mind you, she's sober. She was in a cult before, too. So this is the kind of person... Anyway, I'm going to make a different channeled message about that, because I really need to speak about that. Because it was scary. And both of us being sober, she insisted on going to her friend's quote-unquote fashion week party. Baby, fashion week ended on Tuesday. It's Thursday. So whatever this is, it's not a fucking fashion week party, first of all. Second of all, it was just a bunch of fucking guys who, like, cis, assumedly het guys who sell and do cocaine, selling and doing, doing tons of cocaine. Like, it was disgusting. The music was horrible. We were, like, the only AFABs there, the only femmes there. I wanted to go see my friend DJ house music, which would have been an uplifting experience, and we ended up doing that. And her friend, her childhood friend, who sells cocaine, literally threatened to kill me. I'm sorry, but I'm 3 years sober at the time. I haven't touched a drink in 4.5 years. What the fuck am I doing in a situation like that? You've been sober longer than me. What are you doing in a situation like that? We don't get home until the sun comes out. We don't go to sleep until it's already like 6, 7 a.m. Damn near 30 years old. She was already in her 30s. I did forget about that. She's a few years older than me. I want to say she's probably 35 at this point. This happened like 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Like, what are you doing? You feel me? Why? And that's you putting yourself in a situation where if we hadn't been sober, anything could have happened to us. And it's bad enough to even be around those kinds of people. But we used to run together back in the days in Bushwick on the queer DIY scene, the underground music scene in the Lower East Side, going to jungle parties and shit like that. That's the type of shit that we were on. But bitch, we're grown. What are you doing? Grow up. Obviously, this is a person who's deeply mentally disturbed and not treating that mental illness. She hasn't gone to a place of overstanding. But these are the kinds of people, like, this shit that is proliferating the spiritual community is ruining lives. And it's stealing people. This is some fucking body snatchers type shit. And I don't watch Severance because my friend said it would be really triggering to me. But this is, when I was sleeping at her house, bro, I did have a body snatching dream. So there you go. Don't take this shit as a joke. Don't take this shit lightly, because it ain't no game. It really isn't, though. It's like really important. This is important stuff. You know what I mean? So by no means am I saying that like the church as an institution is not the literal antichrist, and I'll make a channeled message about that, or I will do a newsletter about that, but that is what that is. By no means am I saying that, or that like commercialism, consumerism, capitalism, all that stuff. But one thing is, we're supposed to be boycotting this holiday season anyway, so being in a financial crisis, don't worry about it. Just tell people I'm on the right side of history. Don't even worry about it. Oh, where's my Christmas present? Your Christmas present is that we're not participating in supporting genocide and fucking I don't know, people who traffic humans, whatever. You know what I mean? Tell them that that's what their Christmas present is. I promise you they're still going to be mad. Like, don't worry. If that's what you're concerned about, don't worry about it, because we're supposed to be boycotting anyway. And also, like, you can make people presents. There's nothing wrong with getting together with people that you love and exchanging tokens of your gratitude, appreciation, and care. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being festive. But if you ethically, if you do not participate in those things, just live in your truth. Don't be Christian. You know what I mean? Like, don't celebrate genocide. Like, don't do it. Like, inside of yourself, don't participate in that. But the only reason that you might have to feel conflicted, like, oh my God, like, I don't want to do this holiday, like, is if you're not really living true to what you say. Like, you're not walking it how you talk it. Before I had processed my being descended from colonizers and my colonial privilege in my country, before I had processed that, yeah, I definitely cared more about Thanksgiving. Now that I processed it and I feel good about how I live my life in atonement for that privilege that I inherited, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, because I know that I'm doing my best. And I am. It's not always what I want it to be, and it's maybe not what, like, anybody else wants. You know what I mean? But sometimes our best isn't good enough, and that's okay. You know? I'm doing my best, and if it's not good enough for someone, they don't have to deal with me. But I know for me, I can sleep at night. I know for me, like, a lot of people think that I'm a good person. I know that, because they tell me so. I know that. You know what I mean? So I do feel like there's some performativity in being like, no holidays, Like, if you're not participating, if you're actually living within your values, fucking enjoy yourself, bro. Or don't. I don't know. That's up to you. But I love you all unconditionally, truly and deeply, and I do truly care about all of you, even though I don't know you and I may never meet you. And I just want people to be well and not suffer. So that's what I have for you. I actually had more to say about overstanding, but I really cannot remember what it is that, like, triggered me to start this. If it's relevant, I will remember and I will make a different reading, but otherwise, I'm gonna go. I have more channeled messages to make, but I got a quinceañera that I'm going to. I gotta go get an outfit. I got a bunch of cakes that I need to bake, and I'm doing open tarot readings tonight, so it's a busy weekend and a busy week next week. So I'm gonna go. And I love you all truly and deeply. I hope that this was helpful. Please take care of yourself after listening to this, because you might not realize that you are triggered, but you might be. Doing somatic exercises that help you to ground, taking some deep polyvagal breaths, you know, taking a hot shower and then doing the last 2 minutes on 𝗂𝗵𝗄𝗃𝗃, you know, going and getting acupuncture, going and getting your nails done, having a nice little beverage. Do something to take care of yourself after listening to this, because this was definitely one of our more trauma-related messages. Okay, bye!